Tracy uncovers the truth. The Quartermaine will scam exposed. The Quartermaine mansion has always been a symbol of wealth and legacy in Port Charles. But this week, it became the epicenter of one of the most shocking schemes the family has ever faced. After months of suspicion, Tracy Quartermaine finally discovered the smoking gun that proved Veronica Ronnie Bard's incredible inheritance was built on a foundation of lies and a forged will. What makes this revelation even more extraordinary is the unexpected hero who helped expose the truth, a loyal beagle named Outback, whose timely intervention may have saved the entire family's legacy. The suspicious beginning, Tracy's instincts proved right. From the moment Ronnie arrived in Port Charles, Tracy sensed something was amiss. While the rest of the Quartermaine family welcomed Ronnie with open arms as their long-lost sister of Monica Quartermaine, Tracy remained vigilant. The letters exchanged between Monica and Ronnie seemed authentic enough, and most family members accepted the story at face value. But Tracy, who knows every trick in the book when it comes to schemes and deception, couldn't shake the feeling that something didn't add up. Her suspicions intensified when Monica's will was read during the funeral proceedings. To everyone's shock, the Quartermaine mansion, one of the most valuable and historically significant properties in Port Charles, was left not to Tracy, but to Ronnie, who had only recently arrived in town. According to the will, Monica intended to leave the house to the cherished sister of my heart. While most family members saw this as a touching gesture from Monica to her newly discovered sibling, Tracy saw only manipulation and fraud, the desperate sale, and Drew's ambition. As if the initial shock wasn't enough, the situation escalated dramatically when attorney Martin Gray entered the picture. Martin, working in tandem with Ronnie, began pressuring her to sell the mansion to Drew Kane, the man who had become persona non grata in Port Charles after his recent misdeeds. Drew, never one to pass up an opportunity to strike at the Quartermaine family and specifically to rub salt in Michael's wounds, eagerly pursued the property purchase. Michael, desperate to prevent this disaster, made multiple appeals to Ronnie to reconsider the sale. He begged her not to let the family home fall into Drew's hands, knowing full well that Drew had already threatened to move into the mansion with Michael's ex-wife Willow and their children, a psychological torment Michael couldn't bear to imagine. But Ronnie, caught in a web of manipulation and intimidation, felt powerless to stop the transaction. The pressure mounts. Monica's box. Meanwhile, Tracy was at Lulu's house going through boxes that contained Alan Quartermaine's old belongings. As she and Lucy co-reminisced about Alan and the history of the iconic mansion, Tracy found herself digging through various documents and keepsakes. Then, buried among Alan's diplomas and other personal effects, she discovered something extraordinary: Monica's original, genuine last will and testament, along with a letter from Monica herself. The discovery was pivotal. Tracy held the proof she needed to expose the entire scheme. The real will revealed that Monica had never intended to leave the mansion to Ronnie. Instead, she had left it to Tracy, the woman she truly considered a sister of the heart, not merely by blood, but by the deepest bonds of friendship and family loyalty. The dramatic confrontation. With evidence in hand, Tracy raced against time. Back at the Quartermaine mansion, the atmosphere was tense. Ronnie sat facing the sale documents, her conscience clearly wrestling with her decision. Martin and Drew stood nearby, pressing her to sign immediately and get the transaction finalized. Drew, in his typical arrogant manner, told Ronnie to just sign the papers so she could finally be free from all the family drama and dysfunction. But as Ronnie prepared to put pen to paper, something unexpected happened. At that critical moment, Outback, the beloved beagle, who had become part of the Quartermaine household, ran into the room with impeccable timing. The dog snatched the sale documents right off the table with her teeth and bolted from the room, leaving everyone stunned. Drew, flustered and furious, shouted at the dog to drop the papers. Martin looked incredulous, but it was just enough of a delay. Seconds later, Tracy burst through the door, her face flushed with determination and her voice ringing with authority. That wasn't Monica's true will, Tracy declared. waving the genuine document triumphantly in the air. This is The Truth Unravels, Ronnie's Confession. What followed was a moment of reckoning. Martin tried to dismiss Tracy's discovery as conveniently timed, suggesting that the will she had found was a forgery created by Tracy herself to regain the mansion. But his argument fell apart almost immediately when Ronnie, unable to maintain the charade any longer, broke down and confessed everything. Ronnie revealed how Martin had approached her before Monica's death, initially posing as a friend of Monica's, painting a false picture of the Quartermaine family as ungrateful, conniving backstabbers who didn't deserve their wealth and status. After Monica died, Martin had continued his manipulation, convincing Ronnie that she deserved the estate as the true family member, the one who would appreciate what the Quartermaines had discarded. When Ronnie first refused to participate in the scheme, Martin threatened to expose her to the authorities and accuse her of fraud, leaving her feeling completely trapped. Despite her reservations about the family, Ronnie eventually capitulated under the pressure and duress, agreeing to accept the forged will and later to sell the mansion to Drew. The aftermath: desperation turns to despair. As the reality of her situation became crystal clear, Ronnie's emotional state shifted from resignation to absolute devastation. She realized that what had seemed like her ticket to wealth and security, her chance to finally have everything she had always wanted, had evaporated in an instant. She had been caught in a con perpetrated by a ruthless lawyer who had used her as a pawn to hurt Tracy, and now she faced the consequences. When Tracy confronted her, demanding that Chase arrest both Ronnie and Martin for their roles in the forgery scheme, Ronnie's despair reached its peak. She acknowledged that while Drew had been aggressive and obnoxious throughout the ordeal, he appeared to have been kept in the dark about the forged will. His eagerness to acquire the property seemed to stem purely from his desire to torment Michael, not from any conspiracy to defraud the family. Justice and legacy. The exposure of the will fraud sent shockwaves through Port Charles. Tracy's refusal to let the matter slide, combined with the evidence she had uncovered, meant that the perpetrators of this scheme would face legal consequences. The Quartermaine mansion, instead of being sold to Drew or stolen by a manipulative lawyer, would remain where it belonged with the family that had preserved it through generations. For Ronnie, the fall from grace was complete and heartbreaking. She had arrived in Port Charles as Monica's lost sister, welcomed into a prominent family, only to be manipulated into committing fraud against that same family. Now facing criminal charges and rejection by everyone in town, her dreams of wealth and belonging had collapsed entirely. The woman who thought she was about to inherit everything had lost everything instead. And through it all, it was an unlikely hero out back, the Quartermaine beagle, who had delivered the divine intervention that saved the day. In that one moment of chaos, when a dog simply acted on instinct by grabbing the papers, the entire scheme unraveled, proving once again that sometimes fate works in the most unexpected ways. The Quartermaine legacy would endure, protected not by lawyers or guards, but by the combination of Tracy's unwavering instincts, a box of old memories, and one remarkably well-timed intervention from a four-legged friend who had no idea she was saving the day. Next, we will learn about the explosive kidnapping of Anna Devane and the chilling possibility that Caesar Faison is pulling strings from the shadows once more. In the heart-pounding twists unfolding this week on General Hospital, the formidable Anna Devane finds herself thrust into grave peril as she's ambushed and abducted right from the confines of her own vehicle. Picture this: the seasoned police commissioner, always one step ahead in Port Charles' labyrinth of intrigue, suddenly vulnerable as an unseen assailant strikes from the darkness, using a potent chloroform rag to silence her mid-investigation. This brazen attack isn't random. It's a calculated move tied to Anna's unyielding probe into a ghost from her past, Caesar Faison, the notorious criminal mastermind whose shadow looms larger than ever. Fans are left on the edge of their seats, speculating if Jason Morgan, her trusted ally with a history of daring rescues, will sense the danger and swoop in to pull her from the brink. Much like their intense collaborations in previous crises, where loyalties were tested and lives hung by a thread. Anna's conviction that Faison endures, defying death's finality, stems from a cascade of eerie resurrections among his bloodline that defy all logic in the sleepy yet sinister town of Port Charles. She points to the miraculous reappearances of his children, Britt Westburn and Nathan West, both previously declared lost to tragedy, as undeniable signs that their father orchestrates events from some hidden vantage. Britt, the sharp-tongued doctor with a complicated legacy, and Nathan, the heroic cop whose memory still haunts the force. Emerging alive after such final verdicts raises red flags about elaborate cover-ups. Anna theorizes that Faison's influence persists through covert networks, perhaps funding experimental revivals or faking demises to evade capture, drawing parallels to classic soap revivals where presumed dead villains return with armies of secrets. This theory gains traction as Anna uncovers encrypted communications linking the siblings' survivals to offshore accounts traced back to Faison's old smuggling rings, suggesting a family empire that's far from dismantled. Delving deeper into the assaults that nearly claimed Britt and Nathan, the plot thickens with vivid recollections of violence that scream orchestration rather than coincidence. Britt's harrowing encounter with the elusive hook killer, a shadowy figure wielding a lethal instrument, left her battered and presumed gone, only for her to resurface with unexplained medical advancements that hint at intervention from Faison's inner circle. Meanwhile, Nathan's fatal shooting at the hands of Caesar himself, a paternal betrayal broadcast in a storm of gunfire and deceit, was meant to sever loose ends. Yet whispers among hospital staff reveal anomalous autopsy reports showing traces of experimental serums in his system. These incidents, spaced just months apart, fuel Anna's suspicion of a broader conspiracy, where Faison tests loyalty and weeds out threats, possibly using Port Charles as a lab for his twisted genetic experiments that blur the line between life and oblivion. Even with Caesar Faison's brain preserved in a sterile jar as a macabre trophy from past confrontations, Anna argues this relic might be the key to his ongoing machinations. Not an endpoint, but a launchpad for revival tech. Enter Professor Henry Dalton, the enigmatic scientist collaborating with Britt on what insiders describe as a groundbreaking project echoing Faison's obsessions with immortality and control, perhaps cryogenic neural transfers or AI-driven consciousness uploads. Their late-night sessions in secluded labs, poring over holographic models of human sepsis, mirror the mad genius of Faison's blueprints seized years ago, now repurposed under the guise of medical research. Adding fuel to the fire, Britt's receipt of a cryptic letter signed merely C, urging her to adhere to a regimen of mysterious pills, evokes Faison's signature flair for psychological manipulation. The envelope bore postmarks from Zurich, a hub of his former operations, and contained a locket with a faded photo of Nathan as a child, symbolizing unbreakable ties. As the GH preview teases Anna's assailant with a masked silhouette lurking in the fog-shrouded parking garage, speculation runs rampant on who might orchestrate this bold snatch and grab to derail her quest. Topping the suspect list is Jack Brennan, the cunning WSB operative whose alliances shift like sand, recently clashing with Anna over her Faison fixation. In a tense confrontation at the precinct, Anna pressed him for intel from his Swiss rendezvous with Valentine Casadini, where whispers of frozen assets and revived projects surfaced. Brennan, eyeing her with a mix of concern and calculation, warned her off, citing risks to national security that could unravel if she digs too deep. His history of summer abductions whisking Anna to black site interrogations under the pretense of protection paints him as a man who bends rules to safeguard secrets, potentially staging this kidnapping to isolate her in a safe house stocked with falsified evidence proving Faison's demise, all while his own ties to the villain's network remain obscured. Valentine Casadini emerges as another tantalizing possibility, his enigmatic allure and tangled romance with Anna adding layers of dramatic tension to the scenario. As a Casadini heir with a penchant for dramatic gestures, Valentine could very well orchestrate the abduction, not out of malice, but to shield his ex-lover from the fallout of her inquiries, drawing on their shared history of espionage and betrayal in Eastern European hideouts. Imagine him bundling her into a private jet bound for a remote Casadini estate, where velvet-draped walls conceal maps of Faison's hidden lairs. There, he'd reveal fragmented truths from his Swiss trip encounters with shady financiers claiming Faison funds black market revivals, imploring her to retreat before assassins close in. This twist would highlight Valentin's evolution from rogue to reluctant guardian, his jealousy over Anna's bond with Jason fueling a possessive urgency, while planting seeds for a reconciliation amid the chaos of rediscovered passions. Yet, the most electrifying prospect is Caesar Faison himself masterminding the kidnapping, rising phoenix-like from obscurity to reclaim his throne in Port Charles' Underworld, with his name echoing through recent dialogues like a harbinger, from barroom rumors to encrypted texts intercepted by the PCPD. A full return wouldn't shock longtime viewers accustomed to his Houdini-esque escapes. Faison, ever the puppet master, might be embedded in the Cold Fusion Initiative, funneling resources through proxies like the elusive Jen Sidwell, a fictional arms dealer we've invented here as a new layer, a silver-haired tycoon with a private island lab where fusion tech powers experimental life support pods. This involvement aligns with his legacy of world domination schemes, now pivoting to personal immortality. Snatching Anna could serve as leverage to coerce Brit's cooperation or a sadistic ploy to toy with his old adversary, staging taunting videos of her captivity in a mirrored chamber echoing their past duels. Amid the mounting threats, all eyes turn to Jason Morgan as the inevitable savior, his stone-cold resolve and deep-seated loyalty positioning him as Anna's lifeline in this maelstrom. Their recent heart-to-heart in a dimly lit safe house dissected the threads connecting Brit and Dalton's fusion pursuits to Faison's enduring shadow, particularly how it might rewrite Nathan's tragic arc into a tale of engineered survival. Anna's urgent plea to Jason this week to unearth proof of Faison's vitality underscores their synergy, forged in firefights and moral quandaries, where he deciphers her subtle cues like a coded message. Jason's track record of extracting women from peril, from Sam to Elizabeth, stems from a protective code that views Anna as family. He senses her peril through a missed check and call, racing through rain-slicked streets to trace her car's GPS, dismantling guards with precision strikes. Their reunion promises fireworks, not just physical rescue, but emotional reckoning, as Jason vows to dismantle Faison's network, exposing how the villain's revival could ignite a chain reaction: corporate takeovers, biochemical threats, and fractured alliances that engulf Port Charles in unprecedented turmoil. This kidnapping saga amplifies the stakes for the entire canvas, weaving Faison's phantom into ongoing arcs like the Quartermaine power struggles and Sonny's syndicate woes, where experimental tech could arm rivals with unbeatable edges. If Anna's hunch holds, the Commissioner's fate hinges on swift action, potentially unraveling a decade of buried scandals from Drew's memory manipulations to Liesel's covert dealings. Next, we will learn about the explosive twists and heart-pounding developments shaking up Port Charles in the coming weeks, from November 3rd to 21st. As the drama intensifies, loyal fans like Jason Morgan and Sonny Corinthos dive deep into high-stakes planning sessions, while Carly Corinthos savors the early triumphs of her bold revenge saga against a formidable foe. Meanwhile, Ava Jerm's cunning moves are poised to captivate the enigmatic Jen Sidwell, potentially sparking alliances or even forbidden flames that could redefine power dynamics in the city. Get ready to unpack every layer of these riveting General Hospital revelations, where secrets unravel and loyalties shatter in unexpected ways. Kicking off the frenzy during the week of November 3rd to 7th, the Quartermaine mansion erupts into a battlefield of betrayals and inheritances that will leave no family member unscathed. Tracy Quartermaine, ever the sharp-tongued matriarch, unleashes a bombshell revelation that shatters assumptions about Monica Quartermaine's final wishes, making it abundantly clear that the grand estate was never destined for Veronica Ronnie Bard's grasp. Instead, Monica's will cleverly designates Tracy as the true heir, a twist engineered to protect the Quartermaine legacy from opportunistic outsiders and ensure that old bloodlines prevail. This disclosure hits like a thunderclap, especially for Drew Kane, whose fury boils over into a volcanic rage as he grapples with the implications. Could this force him to confront his own ambitions within the family empire, or spark a ruthless legal battle that drags the Q's deepest skeletons into the public eye? Adding fuel to the Quartermaine fire, a youthful alliance forms among Emma's Scorpio Drake, Giovanni Joe Palmieri, Rocco Falconeri, Danny Morgan, and Charlotte Casadini, all entangled in a clandestine operation designed to expose corruption but quickly derailing into chaos. Emma, fueled by her unyielding sense of justice inherited from her spy parents, locks onto Professor Henry Hank Dalton as the primary target, her determination peaking when she stumbles upon Britt Westburn lurking in his shadowy office, prompting Emma to widen her net and implicate Britt in a web of academic deceit. Yet, the plan stumbles hard when Rocco encounters an unforeseen obstacle, perhaps a surveillance glitch or an untimely witness that threatens to expose the entire group. Joe steps in as the reluctant hero, using his street-smart ingenuity to bail Rocco out of the mess. But this act of solidarity draws the ire of Dante Falconeri, whose protective instincts flare upon discovering his son's involvement in such perilous teenage intrigue. Danny's disappointment could ripple outward, straining bonds with Emma's family and forcing Joe to question if his loyalty to friends is worth the fallout from Port Charles' finest. In a timely surge of nostalgia, a beloved face from Port Charles' storied past makes a dramatic return, arriving just as Laura Collins navigates a whirlwind crisis. In her mayoral bid, imagine the tension if it's none other than a long-lost ally like Kevin Collins, or even a reformed villain turned confidant, offering insider intel to counter sabotage from shadowy political rivals. This homecoming injects fresh energy into Laura's campaign, potentially averting a scandal that could topple her leadership and expose vulnerabilities in the city's governance. Shifting gears to the Underworld, Sonny Corinthos masterminds a discreet rendezvous to draw an ADA Justine Turner, weaving a delicate trap laced with charm and calculated vulnerability to exploit her professional edges. Once secured, Sonny huddles with Jason Morgan for an intense brainstorming session, dissecting threats that loom large, whether it's advancing Sonny's maneuverings against Turner, countering Sidwell's aggressive encroachments on his territory, or safeguarding Michael Corinthos from escalating family vendettas that trace back to buried mob histories. Jason's tactical mind shines here, perhaps proposing contingency plans involving hidden safe houses or encrypted communications, underscoring their unbreakable brotherhood forged in decades of Port Charles peril. On a more intriguing front, Jen Sidwell finds himself utterly mesmerized by Ava Jerem's bold maneuvers, as she executes a savvy play, maybe leaking selective intel or staging a high-profile charity event that aligns with his interests to earn his favor and secure a foothold in his elite circle. This connection brews possibilities galore, a sizzling romantic tension that challenges Ava's complicated heart, or a strategic partnership blending her Jerome cunning with Sidwell's global resources, potentially upending Sonny's dominance and igniting a power struggle laced with passion and peril. As November 10th to 14th unfolds, Carly Corinthos basks in the glow of her meticulously crafted vendetta against Jack Brennan, her confidence soaring as each step in the revenge blueprint unfolds with precision, from anonymous tips to corporate sabotage that chips away at his empire. Yet, shadows lengthen when Valentine Casadini, freshly relocated to a nearby federal lockup, ramps up his manipulative pleas for Carly's aid in orchestrating a daring breakout in Vision, Valentine dangling promises of shared secrets or mutual protection in exchange for her complicity, testing Carly's resolve amid her own moral tightrope. Despite the mounting pressure, Carly's optimism holds firm, viewing Brennan's unraveling as a personal victory that restores her autonomy after years of being sidelined in Port Charles chaos. Enter Jocelyn Jacks, whose emerging quest, perhaps infiltrating a rival network or uncovering Brennan's hidden assets intensifies Carlyle's vigilance, blending mother-daughter synergy with Joss's fiery independence to accelerate the downfall, though it risks exposing them both to Brennan's vengeful retaliation. This phase highlights Carlyle's evolution from resilient survivor to calculated avenger, analyzing how her past traumas with Sonny and Jason inform her unyielding drive, while Joss's involvement adds generational layers, exploring themes of inherited grit and the blurred lines between justice and obsession in the Corinthos lineage. The romantic currents swell during the week of November 17th to 21st, where Cody Bell and Molly Lansing Davis finally navigate past the barrage of interruptions that have plagued their budding connection, culminating in a long-awaited, electric first kiss that seals their undeniable chemistry. Fans have clamored for this moment, and the stars align as Cody sweeps Molly into an intimate evening picture, a candlelit dinner overlooking the harbor, or a spontaneous dance under the stars, allowing their emotions to deepen into something profound and physical, with whispers of shared futures amid the sheets. Yet, beneath the passion lurks Cody's burdensome secrets surrounding Rick Lansing and the explosive kidnapping saga he witnessed at Alexis Davis' residence. Details that could fracture their bliss if exposed, forcing Cody to weigh confession against self-preservation in a city rife with legal entanglements. Will these hidden truths erupt during a vulnerable post-intimacy talk, or simmer until they poison the well? Paralleling this tender arc, Willow Tate's plight in Pentonville prison intensifies her desperation as she fights tooth and nail against the suffocating walls, petitioning relentlessly for bail while piecing together evidence to exonerate herself from Drew Kane's shooting. Speculation runs wild. Might a surprise witness or forensic breakthrough, perhaps a tampered ballistics report, emerge to grant her freedom? Or does Willow's insistence on Michael's guilt mask a deeper family conspiracy? Though she's laser-focused on redirecting blame, the true culprit promises to be a jaw-dropping revelation, someone woven into Port Charles' fabric like a trusted confidant turned traitor, unraveling alliances and propelling Willow toward redemption or ruin. General Hospital spoilers promise a torrent of enigmas and jaw-dropping turns that will keep viewers glued, from fractured families to forbidden romances and vengeance unbound. So stay tuned to our channel for the latest breakdowns on every twist Port Charles throws our way.